Hello, this is Jeff from Stu41 Gaming, and we're finally back with the next Smite video. So, we're talking about Anubis this time, one of the more infamous gods in Smite, but we'll get to that a little more later. But, the build, as we see I've got for him right now, is one that I've been playing with for a little while. And the thing about Anubis is that, due to the fact that he is so OP, you can really go a lot of different directions with how you build him. So I'm going to give some alternatives to some of these items if you don't like them. So this is just a build I've got set up for real good single target 1v1 damage. So let's just get into it. We'll talk about what to switch out here if you want to in a second. So first we got shoes, and I basically have these over Shoes of the Magi for the cooldown reduction. One thing Anubis really does need is decent cooldown, so that's what I've got that there for. And next I got Banecroft, but this is where we can start playing around with Anubis a little bit. As we see, Banecroft is really here for great lifesteal, and of course the scaling it has when you're lower on health, and it adds a lot more damage. But you could definitely go a Book of Thoth here, and either drop Book of the Dead, or push Banecroft's back, drop Book of the Dead. You could really do a lot with Anubis, and I have to give some prerequisites. And next I've got Book of the Dead, which is more power, more lifesteal, and some health. And then healing from lifesteal can give you a shield when you're at full health. This really helps Anubis if you can drop some minions real quick and get that shield up. And it makes, you basically can take another solid hit from an ability. So that helps with the whole 1v1ing thing. And then next we've got Obsidian Shard for some penetration. This is where you could, again, tweak this build a little bit. I know Gem of Isolation is really good with Anubis, so you could put Gem of Isolation here, or again, I think if anything could be dropped, it would be Book of the Dead. Just because it gives power, gives some lifesteal, but at the same time, it's a little bit of a utility item, and it's pretty expensive. So I think Gem of Isolation could go here. Maybe like bump Obsidian Shard up here and put Gem of Isolation here. Just to tweak things around if you don't like this build necessarily. Then next we got Rod. I think everybody knows what the Rod does. It is the Rod. Just makes you OP. And then last but not least I got Pythagorean's Piece. And if you get to this, you're Shrekking. To put it simply, this is just basically a utility item that gives you a bunch more of basically everything. So that's basically why it's there. This build, when you hit Rod, you're already just absolutely melting everything when you get it. So just getting the Pythagorean's Piece is just adding insult to injury to everyone on the other team. And we got beads and Aegis Amulet for the relics. I think everybody would run those as a mage. And let's see his abilities real quick. Some of his very infamous abilities. His passive, all of Anubis' abilities steal physical and magical protection from the target. He gains increased scaling from his magical lifesteal, so that plays well to Banecrofts and stuff like that. And then in addition, Star grants Anubis an additional 30% reduction in all crowd control durations. Pretty OP passive there. But first we got Plague of Locusts. He just sits there and shoots out locusts for a few seconds. Does damage every half a second. Pretty sure everyone knows that. Mummify, I'm not sugarcoating it, is probably one of the most OP abilities in this game. It is really the setup for any engage for a team that has Anubis on their team. He can engage with it and just lock someone up, and it makes him one of the most dangerous 1v1ers in the game. Next we got Grasping Hands, does damage every half a second for 2 seconds, and pretty sure everyone knows that one. Then last but not least, possibly the most infamous ult in the game, or at least definitely one of them, is Death Gaze. Anubis's Death Gaze ticks every 0.1 second for 3 seconds. Yeah. And those damage per ticks will get pretty high after when you get late into the game. So Anubis, just the Death Gaze is disgusting late game and even early game if you can get a little bit ahead. But basically what you're going to be doing most of the time will be Mummify and then any of these. And default God Builder I think is perfectly fine for Anubis. I can't really think of anything I would want to change. So let's get into how to play Anubis. A little spoiler, it's not too hard. So playing Anubis is basically just repeating your 2 and then if you have your ult, you can ult. If you don't have your ult, you go 2-3-1 or 2-1-3. Oh, 2-3-1 because you need your 1 you have to channel your 1. And really for Anubis, like I said, with his 1v1 ability, he can basically take most gods down. The only people who are going to put up a really good fight are hunters. And maybe an assassin if they can get out, and maybe like a Loki who can ult you while you're trying to attack him. But 1v1ing Anubis it's going to be a gamble. Either you get lucky, you can have your beads and you can try and get out, or you can pray they miss their Mummify and then you'll have a chance. But with Anubis, you are leading with Mummify basically whenever you do anything, because it is so easy to just pop it out on people who aren't expecting it and just hit them with, if they're at range, maybe hit them with your 3. And just doing that, with how hard your 3 hits, once you get decent ways into the game, you're getting basically a free 300 damage if they can't get out of the Mummify. And again, like I said, Anubis definitely can engage. If you can hit like a hunter or a dumb mage that moves up, you're going to hit them, and basically everyone on your team will dogpile them, if they're smart, that is. And he's one of the few gods that really, outside of the tanks and warriors, can definitely engage and do it well. And obviously in a team fight, you are going to want to try and stay back. This is where playing Anubis can be a bit difficult, because when you play Anubis, you put a humongous bullseye on yourself. Everyone happens to know that Anubis is OP as hell. So if a team fight breaks out, but you got to keep your head on a swivel, because Anubis he has a humongous bullseye on his back whenever a team fight breaks out. If the other team is smart, that is. And you'll probably have an assassin up your butthole in about 2 seconds, so they'll probably end up being the one you have to take on in a team fight. And that can prove problematic if they know what they're doing and can get a stun off first or something of that sort. So that if you can get into a team fight and you're playing with like an Ares or an Odin or a really good tank, that is where Anubis can just be downright disgusting. He has so much area damage and can hit so hard, so quick. He just ends up being really, really OP. And he can lay out a ton of damage in a really short amount of time with his CCs. If you're playing with Gem of Isolation, this is where it can become just ridiculous. So when you're playing Anubis, that's the main thing you have to remember, is you're going to have a bullseye on your back. If you can handle or get someone to help you take down the assassin, that'll probably be on you right after a team fight breaks out. You'll probably be fine. And you're going to have the game where you're going to get focused. It's going to be a rough time. It's just how it works when you're playing Anubis. But every once in a while you'll have the game where it's just you're able to do basically whatever you want, and that is where Anubis can just be ridiculous. One of the most hated gods in the game for a reason. But thanks for watching, and I hope I don't see any Anubises. Don't watch this video.